Mercedes have a huge surprise. So we're going to be revealing that in today's video, and we're also going to be going through 5 other stories coming up to the Japan Grand Prix. But let's get into the surprise story, and this story is talking about Daniel Ricciardo being rumored in advanced talks with Mercedes over reserve role. Daniel Ricciardo has reportedly now reached an advanced stage in talks with Mercedes over becoming their reserve driver. The Aussie is on the hunt for a new place to call home in Formula 1, with McLaren having confirmed the termination of his contract at the end of 2022, a year before it was set to expire. After struggling to find a strong performance level since joining the team ahead of the 2021 campaign, Ricciardo's place will be taken by his compatriot Oscar Piastri, who will now partner Lando Norris from 2023. There had been rumblings in the paddock that Ricciardo could join Mercedes as their reserve driver rather than take one of the remaining vacancies on the 2023 grid. And according to the French broadcaster Canal Plus, Ricciardo and Mercedes are now in advanced talks over a deal which would see him become the reserve driver as Lewis Hamilton and George Russell remain the team's lineup. Ricciardo was indeed seen visiting Mercedes hospitality in Singapore, though that was reportedly to drop off some merchandise for team boss Toto Wolff. Lewis Hamilton says Daniel Ricciardo is too good for this, however. When they appeared in the press conference together ahead of the Italian Grand Prix in September, Hamilton was asked about the speculation that Ricciardo could become a reserve driver at Mercedes. The 7-time champ though said that this was beneath Ricciardo, who belonged as one of the 20 drivers with the race seat. "I think he should be racing personally," said Hamilton. "I think he's far too talented and he's earned the right to be amongst us all racing. But of course, if he's part of our team, that would be great. But I mean, third role is not really, I think, what's best for him. So if I was managing him, he'd be racing. But it would be ideal for Daniel Ricciardo, however. It is safe to say that Ricciardo's reputation has taken a bit of a hit at McLaren, though it seems that majority of fans and people in the paddock refuse to accept that the 8-time race winner has suddenly fallen off the cliff in terms of ability. Now, I think Daniel Ricciardo is still able to put up some great numbers in F1. However, I just think the McLaren team membership hasn't really worked out for him, and it hasn't turned out to the way that a lot of people have hoped for, and also Daniel Ricciardo has hoped for. But if he does move to a team like Mercedes that can really give him anything he wants and really provide a lot, I think that's where we really see Daniel Ricciardo flourish, and that's where we also saw Daniel Ricciardo flourish in a great team such as Red Bull. But this makes his next move in Formula 1. If there is one, very crucial indeed, as another poor display somewhere else could be disastrous. While already now there are no options available which could realistically put him in a car more competitive than the McLaren. Ricciardo still aims to become world champion, so a move to Mercedes really does seem like an ideal opportunity. The Silver Arrows fell away from a title contention in 2022, but their history and their rate of development this season creates hope that it will not be long before they are back on form, especially with 7-time champ Hamilton and build star of the future George Russell steering Mercedes work. Hamilton may have said recently, according to Wolff, that he feels like he has another 5 years left in Formula 1, but with his contract expiring at the end of 2023, the situation could still change before then. At that point, Mercedes would have already had a solid option in their ranks to replace Hamilton, promoting Ricciardo to take over as the veteran of that team, and what an opportunity he has then. Even if Hamilton did keep going for a good while longer yet, that is not to say that an opportunity won't come along for Ricciardo to compete for Mercedes and prove he still has it. Just ask Russell, who replaced the ill Hamilton at the 2020 Secure Grand Prix, where he proved that he was ready for the Mercedes seat. Now, for all this chatter and ifs and buts and maybes, we have to look at what Daniel Ricciardo has actually revealed about his future plans. He has not given many concrete indications, with Mark Webber, also an ex-Red Bull driver and current manager of Piastri, revealing on Channel 4's Singapore Grand Prix coverage that he had a good chat with Ricciardo, who he believes generally has not made a decision. "I'm really assessing everything," said Ricciardo at Monza. "In short, I don't have anything teed up yet. Like I said, I don't have anything confirmed, and I don't think when I'll know when I do. I'll let you know and I'll be the first to tell you. So there is no reason for me to hold back any information now. There's no secrets, it's all kind of open and out there, so I'm sure over time the right thing, whatever that ends up being, will make sense. And I think as well, it's not just about what's right for next year, it's what's right for my future, you know. It goes beyond 2023, so it's complex, but when I know, you will." The Aussies then is very much a long-term view, but what perhaps was even more of a hint was that about the potential Mercedes move, was then when he said that he was able to not want to be on the grid in 2023. Not being on it could be actually beneficial from him beyond that point. "I'm not kind of seeing next year as all or nothing," he said on the Fitzy and Whip of Breakfast podcast. So that's kind kind of where I'm like. If it means taking a step back to then take 2 steps forward, then that's what we're trying to figure out at the moment. Me and my team, so that we could stay a year off. Now, I think this is really important, and I think it would be fantastic to see Daniel Ricciardo still in F1 next year, even if it is as a reserve driver. I think he's too good to really take a year off, and I don't think he would want to waste a year doing that. So it would be exciting to see Daniel Ricciardo back on the tracks, even as a reserve driver for someone like Mercedes, because, I would love to see him in a Mercedes outfit and driving, a great car next season. Now, speaking of great cars, Mercedes Elliott says W13's issues rooted in one single mistake. So we're going to be getting into the second story, which talks about the Mercedes technical director Mike Elliott, who believes that the problems that have impacted its W13 Silver Arrows this year can be traced back to one fundamental mistake made by the team in 2021. After 8 years of utter domination, during which it clinched 8 consecutive constructors and 7 drivers' titles, Mercedes is potentially heading towards a winless campaign, such has been the level of its difficulties this year. When the Brackley squad rolled out its W13 zero side pod concept in pre-season testing, many believed that Mercedes had once again unleashed its engineering prowess and unveiled a silver arrow with an unfair advantage. However, the W13's package proved complicated to set up from the outset, with porpoising and bouncing significantly impacting the car's performance. But gradually, Mercedes engineers have been able to mitigate the issues and significantly improve their car's erratic behavior. But snatching that elusive win in the final 5 races of the year will remain a challenge. Now, speaking to Formula One's Tom Clarkson on the Ladder Beyond the Grid podcast, Elliott revealed that the source of the W13's difficulties were rooted in a specific moment in time that took place last year. You look at how we developed the car, and I can point at one moment, the time that last year where we did something where I think we made a mistake, Elliott explained. When you see in terms of performance and the way it swings from race to race as a consequence of that, and that's a mistake we've known about for a while, and something we've been correcting, and that's why our performance has gradually gotten better. But it's not something we can fully correct for a little while yet, but we will do over winter. Unfortunately, Elliott stopped short of revealing the exact nature of the mistake made by the team last season, but hints points to a specific flaw embedded in the exposed part of the W13's all-important floor. Elliott did elaborate, however, on how Mercedes aerodynamics exploited a loophole in F1's technical directions and also regulations to whip up their zero side pod concept. With a loophole, you go through the winter and you look at it and think, has anybody else spotted it, or is someone else going to turn up with it, Elliott said. While it looks visually very different, and as always with things, it's about opening up small aerodynamic advantages without going and running a development on the car concept we've got and running development on a different concept. It's hard to know what it will be worth at the end. So I think this is really all important when it comes to what was really going on this season for Mercedes. They did just get a bad end of the straw, but I think next year and next season they can definitely come back full force and be where they want to be. I think these mistakes need to happen. Mercedes had a great run over the past 7 years, and I think it's fantastic to see what they've accomplished. However, sometimes you need to lose some to win some, and I think this will give them even more motivation to come back next season and take back what's theirs, which is a driver's championship and also constructors. Now, Mercedes boss Toto Wolff, getting into the third story, is where Toto Wolff defends rival Max Verstappen amid Red Bull budget cap. So this was honestly huge, and when it comes to this, Red Bull have actually accused of breaching F1's 2021 budget cap rules in a blow to Max Verstappen. Toto Wolff has defended, however, Max Verstappen over Red Bull's budget cap fiasco. Despite Lewis Hamilton losing the title last season, Wolff claimed drivers may not be involved in decisions their team make in regards to finances. He said, to judge on that, drivers racing their guts out to the top when there's decisions that the team takes they are not involved in. But still, at the end, you sit in a car that's maybe on steroids, said Toto Wolff. This would have been enough for the FIA to impose strict sanctions of Red Bull, including docking championship points. However, it is not now understood the team spent far less than this and are likely to only receive a fine. So it's still up in the air what is going to happen. However, I do have to say, when it comes to what has really been going on, I think that if Red Bull are actually deducted the points and Mercedes actually end up getting their championship back that they actually lost last season, I think it would give Lewis Hamilton an idea to actually maybe retire due to the fact that he finally has 8th and has overtaken Schumacher. I think one of the reasons why Lewis Hamilton continues to go on is definitely due to the fact fact that Lewis Hamilton has 7 and also does Michael Schumacher. And I think he wants to beat that record to really cement himself as one of the greatest drivers to ever do it. And I think that's what he needs lastly in order to get that done. Now, Lewis Hamilton, speaking of him, getting into the fourth story, Lewis Hamilton said he is happier than ever despite Mercedes' star on course for the worst F1 season of his career. Lewis Hamilton has insisted he is happy at Mercedes despite being on track to produce his worst ever season in Formula 1. The 7-time world champion is yet to win a race this year, with Mercedes struggling to produce a car near the pace of Red Bull and Ferrari. And Hamilton, at 37, has also struggled himself and currently sits 6th in the driver's standings, 32 points behind Carlos Sainz and 33 behind teammate George Russell. Hamilton has reaffirmed his happiness in F1 amid rumors of him signing a new 5-year contract. Hamilton's told Sky Sports, "I definitely feel I'm happier than I've ever been, which is really strange because I'm not winning in racing and that's really been my go-to thing. Having success there would bring me so much happiness, but I'm finding more happiness in my personal life. Now, just being more comfortable in who I am and my surroundings and my intentions." Despite being in cars were arguably less competitive than this year's W13, Hamilton has always managed to wrestle a race win out of every season, even when he's competed in every F1. Furthermore, he has never finished below 5th place in the driver's standings. Hamilton went on a run of winning 5 podiums in a row with back-to-back runner-up medals prior to mid-season break, but has failed to replicate this form in 4 races since. He failed to finish the Belgian Grand Prix after taking damage from Fernando Alonso, and then came 4th and 5th in the next 2 races before a P9 result in turbulent Singapore Grand Prix. So there obviously is a lot to it, and when it comes to this, I honestly think it's going to be up, because next up is for the drivers is Suzuka, Japan, a circuit which has not been raced at F1 since before the COVID-19 pandemic. The race this weekend could have Max Verstappen finally wrap up the title after failing to do so in Singapore. Following his trip around Africa during the break, Hamilton also revealed he feels more at peace with himself. He added, "We live in such a bubble, there's so much happening around the world and so many people are struggling with so much. It's sad to see if you really sit and watch the news because it feels like it's worse than ever." The experience of going to Africa, seeing people with so little, I say so little because they have everything and they're so happy, but just seeing different way of living. We accumulate too much stuff, we eat too much food, the things that we take for granted, people don't have that luxury, and I think it's really great to have the experience to put things in perspective. There it was, just once I was at peace. There's been few fears that Hamilton would quit the sport after controversial way he lost the title to Max Verstappen last year, and despite being more than half a season beyond those events, they've returned to the spotlight once again, with reports indicating Red Bull along with Aston Martin may have exceeded F1's new budget cap. Depending on how bad the transgression is, it may even lead to Hamilton being awarded the 2021 title. So I think this is all really great to take into account when it comes to what is really going on and what's really holding Lewis Hamilton back. I think his age obviously does play a part, but him being 37 years old, I still think he's still one of the best drivers out there, and he can continue to perform at such a high level. Despite his age, if the car was up to their standard, I could definitely see Lewis Hamilton winning and definitely George Russell coming in close second, or maybe at least even podium. So it would be interesting to see how this all plays out over the next, couple of Grand Prix. I think Lewis Hamilton is still able to get this win and able to get one more win under his belt in order to keep his streak alive. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.